Greetings and salutations! Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Tuesday, May 4, 2021. For today's editorial, U.S. policy shift on North Korea could ramp up tensions. Addressing the U.S. Congress last week, President Joe Biden fired a broadside at North Korea, calling its nuclear program a serious threat to America's security and world security. Days earlier, the U.S. State Department had branded North Korea as one of the most repressive and totalitarian states in the world. The barbed pronouncement set the tone for Washington's new policy direction on Pyongyang. They could also ramp up tension in the Asia-Pacific, a region where tensions are already running high. Unsurprisingly, Pyongyang was quick to react, warning that the United States will face a crisis beyond control in the near future. The verbal jabs could be Biden's way of reminding Pyongyang that there's a new sheriff in Washington that will be tougher to deal with than the previous one. Donald Trump cozied up to North Korean ruler Kim Jong-un to project himself as a savvy leader who can take on even the world's most ruthless dictators. But in the end, it was Kim who exploited Trump's credulity. Despite two one-on-one meetings with Kim and striding into North Korean territory in 2019, the first sitting American president to do so, Trump failed to wangle an agreement to denuclearize from Kim. Kim, on the other hand, capitalized on the high-profile publicity, repurposing it into propaganda to further inveigle his people and tighten his grip on power. Biden apparently does not want to fall into the same trap. His strategists say the US will adopt a calibrated, practical approach that is open to and will explore diplomacy, with North Korea instead of aiming for grand bargains like denuclearization. Pyongyang will be eager to put the new US thrust to a test. Its usual tactic is to launch missiles into the sea, a way of showing it can strike not only at its Asian neighbors, but even the US mainland, or it could detonate a device at one of its nuclear facilities. The traditional US response would be to either further tighten economic sanctions against Pyongyang or order its warships to sail into Pacific waters as a show of force. It is the textbook beginning to a game of brinkmanship, in which the players ratchet up the threats without actually going to war, because then everybody loses. The Korean War of 1950 killed at least 2.5 million people and caused untold devastation in the Korean peninsula. Nobody wants a repeat of that grim episode. Many observers believe reviving the six-party talks could defuse a volatile situation. In 2003, North and South Korea, the United States, China, Japan, and Russia sat down to hammer out a nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Essentially, Pyongyang was to scrap its nuclear facilities in exchange for fuel aid and a chance to normalize relations with the US and Japan. Negotiations were gaining headway until 2009, when Pyongyang launched what it described as a rocket carrying a satellite into orbit, but which many in the international community suspect was a prototype of a Korean intercontinental ballistic missile. The launch was a failure, but the United Nations Security Council still condemned Pyongyang for going ahead with it. Pyongyang promptly pulled out of the talks and announced it was resuming its nuclear enrichment program. To drive home its point, it detonated a nuclear bomb underground a month later. Subsequent attempts to restart the six-party talks have floundered. China is seen to wield considerable influence over North Korea to coax it back to the negotiating table, but China itself has shown little interest in getting the talks back on track. Beijing is not comfortable with the Biden administration's decision to intervene in the South China Sea dispute. Russia could also give North Korea a nudge, but Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin are not exactly fast friends either. Pyongyang remains a pariah state, but the label has not stopped it from further building up its nuclear capability, spending billions which could have otherwise funded a massive program to lift its people from grinding poverty and hunger. Resurrecting the six-party talks to re-engage Pyongyang may be a long shot, but it certainly is worth a try. And that's the editorial for Tuesday, May 4, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.